Hey folks, welcome back to another Poem Masters video, and today, at the end of the month, right, let's go over the tier list again, right, and see if there's any changes, and obviously also rank the new units, / the units that got, upgrades and stuff, right, or downgrades. No one got downgrades, they all got upgrades. Alright, so, I guess, as usual, let's, quickly throw the disclaimer up there, right, / rules, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So, okay, anyways, let's get into this, I guess. So, this month, not a lot. Like, we had some, like, really good units, but, like, nothing, like, super meta changing really dropped this month. I mean, if you really want to stretch it, you could maybe say SS Hilbert with his many type of rebuffs, but generally it doesn't change too much for a lot of team comps for those types, because most of those types already have, like, for example, rain, like water or fire. They generally have better teams, right, that they want to run with either sun or rain, right, and stuff. And obviously electric, you got ash and Thunderbolt red that you probably want to run with instead. Again, not a knock on SS Hilbert, because he's gonna be very good, but I'm just saying overall this update didn't bring too many different changes to like how a lot of other comps are gonna build. So in terms of like most of the changes we're gonna have here, it's probably just gonna be maybe just some things in terms of oversight or looking over, revising some placements from before, right? So anyways, let's get in. Let's start with damage dealer. Let's start with the Roxie over here, I guess. So Roxie got a pretty solid upgrade, man. Roxie got a pretty solid upgrade, I'd say overall. She got a bit of a nuke. She got some multipliers for regular damage. You can't pick them all up, unfortunately, but they're all really nice, and she was a pretty decent unit even before the grid. Good on speed at least, right? And she was at least a 3 gauge damage dealer, so all in all, it's pretty solid. She's probably one of the better 4-star Sumble Gasha units. I don't think she's the best, right? I do feel like, Will or Gardenia are probably still better, and part of that also does come from the fact that the Poison Zone unit, again, a Fall Iris, doesn't really fit with her super well, being, she's a special defense debuffer, and Roxie's obviously a physical damage dealer, which is, I guess, part of the problem with Fall Iris in general, but she's still really nice, right? She's still really good. I mean, I'd say I generally would take her over, like, Bruno, right? So, at least she's a bit faster, a bit more reliable than Bruno, so, yeah, she's good. Next up, I guess let's talk about Hugh. Hugh is, he's a bit of an odd unit, right? We'll probably put him in the fantastic tier, right, alongside, maybe units like Fall Hilbert and stuff. So, Hugh has some obvious downsides, right? Obvious downsides. Number 1, the recoil thing, right? Not good. Number 2, normal type, also not great. But on the flip side, at least for Master Mode, he's always going to be a great, he's all gonna be a great off-type damage dealer, because he's off-type all the time. But he has, like, solid damage on it, right? And since Master Mode generally are faster battles, you don't have to worry about the recoil thing too much, as long as you just get, like, 1 or 2 lucky rolls on his passive. You should be able to clear almost any Master Mode stage, right? As long as they don't have any sentry entry times 2 or whatever, right? Which makes him a solid unit there. As for longer battles, like in Gauntlet, he's still usable, right? He's not completely worthless. For example, I do have him as a carry in one of my Gauntlet teams as the main carry, being that he actually does also flinch, right? If you guys remember, he does have a second move outside of head charge, which is headbutt. Obviously not going to do as much damage, but you got aggravation on headbutt. The 6% chance of flinch is always going to be nice in most Gauntlet stages that are susceptible to flinching, and plus he's relatively self-sufficient in terms of his self buff, so that's always good. He has recuperation too, right, which is also gonna be really, really nice for Gauntlet, healthy healing, all that stuff, and, you know, his sync could still do some solid damage in Gauntlet, so he's not, like, completely useless in Gauntlet, but yeah, he definitely does, again, definitely does have those limitations, but the upsides, I'd say, would make him at least good enough, right, in comparison to units like, you know, Hala, again, Fall Hilbert, Dojo Gloria, there's all, this Gloria as well, right, these are all units that, can be very, very, very good in certain scenarios, but also do have a bit of a downside, right, bit of a downside, not that that's what defines each tier, right, there's no, like, one special thing, right, for each tier, but I'd say it's just a bit of a coincidence, I guess, this tier, a lot of, units, upsides and downsides, right. Next, we got the new and improved Kris, which is just fantastic, man. This is a great, great, great boost, especially if you are using her on type, right? She also has super powered 5, I believe, right? We could probably have her all the way up here, really. Like genuinely, I mean, she's, like, better than a few of these even in here, right? I mean, so she's probably better than, like, B, right? You could argue maybe, you know, maybe even like Anni Lily or something like that. Maybe Classic Blue, right? She's really good, man. She has two times multipliers for her sync, on top of another 50% multiplier, right, if super effective. And top of that, I mean, again, she's got like free plus 40 attack for like no reason. She is much, much more, you know, lighter on supports that you could bring her, since she could crit focus and just max out her crit herself, which also just costs like 3 energy only to really pick up, right? Just a lot of really, really great stuff here. Again, her DPS on type has been improved a bit with the superpowered 5 too as well, if you care about that. And, you know, she's a relatively fast unit, right? It's not like she's a much of a gauge liability either. I mean, Mega Kick always just had really good BP for a 3 gauge move. Yeah, it's just an overall really, really, really powerful unit that gives you really good damage, right? Which is generally what you want to see in a damage dealer. Speaking of old units, old damages that got solid grid buffs, the old N, first N in Zekrom, right? And like this N in Zekrom, you look at the grid and you think, are these really that big of a deal? They're pretty good, man. They are really, really nice. I mean, first of all, you have like Focus Rush if you really need, makes it so that his, you know, stuff isn't as bad, right? In terms of self, or the requirements for the support. It's not like the ideal way, because like you'd rather like crit on your, you do have that, I mean, it's fine. It's like, okay, in terms of the first sync. And if you really want, you just pick up like follow through 9 over here if you want crit on your first sync, right? And like boom, plus 3 crit, that fixes that issue over there, right? And then Berserker, if you want to pick that up, it'll cost a bit. So maybe not, because there's other things you might want to pick up. So yeah, that also helps, right? And just you could become totally self-sufficient, right? And then you have stuff like Static Boost 3, which is an extra 30% multiplier, which is not a lot, but I mean something. And then you have Hostile Environment 4, which, you know, boom, you could just paralyze, you know, whoever you want, like straight up, right? Which is it's just overall really, really nice boost. I'd say the boost overall isn't as crazy as something like Kris, but it's good enough. And again, now that you get to run him with units like Thunderbolt Red, it just makes him overall like so much better, right, of a unit. And he always did solid damage, and then you get an extra 30% multiplier. Does this a bit more, so I'd say you could definitely move him up, maybe even up here, right, with the Raihan, who got the grid expansion last month. So we'll see who gets the next month. Last one here, SS Hilda. There's nothing too much to talk about SS Hilda. There's really nothing to discuss here. She's one of the top, just in terms of just straight up damage dealing, right? She's one of the top straight up damage dealers in the game. She does a lot of damage. That's nothing else to say. She's self-sufficient, does a billion, you know, damage, both on her sync and her regular moves. She has like downside up like on the V create. It's just good unit, man. Good unit. Very, very, very good. easily one of the best damage dealers in the game. Moving on to hybrids, let's actually move a few units first. Again, you know, nothing this month really changed. Then it's just, I guess, just a reevaluation of sorts, right? So first one gonna move down is probably Bertha, right? Bertha still could do solid things, right? I mean, her ground nuke is still nice. I mean, she can still set Sandstorm, she can still tank a few hits here and there, but it's just in comparison to like some of the other units on in the same tier, right? She does lack a bit of more consistent way of dealing damage in comparison to all the other units up here, which again, these aren't just all that, like they could all do, like you could say, oh, but Bertha does all this other stuff outside of dealing, you know, consistent damage, which is true, but everyone else up here also does other things, like instead, like this guy has like potions, obviously. They have really good defense debuffs. You could hypnosis, whatever, here and there. You could debuff very well too. And there's some of the rarest debuffs, right, with defog there. So yeah, Bertha, she's so nice. Also, the other thing is like, Stealth Rocks is just legitimately trash, man. Stealth Rocks is so bad. Everyone has like just the biggest like resistance to stealth rock damage like ever. It's just like it does nothing, which really sucks as well. But I mean, still an overall nice unit, just maybe more in line with units a tier lower, right? And let's see who else. Same thing with some of the other units, I guess, over here. Spring May could probably also move down a bit. I mean, she has her obvious issues, which is she has to sink to even get high jump kick to be a consistent damage dealer, which generally you don't really want. And the more popular way of running Spring May now is just to run her as a physical tank / support. I mean, which she does very, very good job of still, right, in terms of she still buffs team speed, buffs team defense, has potions, right? I mean, she's a really, really, really good gauntlet tank, despite being a striker, right? And yeah, the only reason why she's not in utility and she's in hybrid still is, again, she has the ability to do damage with that high jump kick, which she could still output really, really solid damage on that high jump kick if you really wanted. But it's just not that great of a way to use. And again, despite the I think overplayed criticism of Aura Cynthia, right, in terms of her setting fighting zone on sync, I don't think that really is a bit of an issue to most fighting type damage. It is definitely an issue for Spring May, that's for sure, right? Because you just don't get the fighting type damage if you don't sync with her, right? So yeah, the rest of her kit is still really, really nice. It's just that, yeah, she's just not much of a hybrid unit. She would fit much more in utility, but then again, you can't really put her in utility because she still has a very, very powerful high jump kick, right? So that's why she's in hybrid. She's in a bit of a weird spot. It's, again, the categorizations, these things, it's just really hard to make it perfect, right? I mean, we keep on moving units in between, like, categorizations. Like, I think big examples, like Archie and Maxi, like, those guys, Archie and Maxi move from, like, damage dealer to like hybrid like every other month, just because of how the units and landscape of units who use their powers, right, just shift and change so constantly, just because, you know, a lot of rain and sun units just keep on coming out and doing different things and shift their roles or primary roles, right? So yeah, it's a bit of a tough spot for Spring May, but yeah, she could probably stay down there for a bit maybe. Last one we're probably going to move down here is maybe Nessa? Nessa's still, again, she still has her upsides. I mean, she could still be a really, really nice physical tank. I mean, I'm planning to use her as my main tank against Tapu Bulu in my 100 Street Gauntlet run, and she does a fine job at that. But overall, it's just that Hail units are not doing great, right? And obviously most of our kit does revolve around, you know, Hail and stuff, and there just aren't enough units that could really like use that to its full extent. And yeah, she definitely got upsides. I mean, offensively she could do some solid stuff there as well. She could still flinch, all that, but you know, although sometimes it could be a bit too gauge heavy. And she also does have a bit of an issue of she does like way too many different things, right? And doesn't do one thing particularly super well. So I guess yeah, she's still solid. Again, it's literally in the solid tier. I mean, these are still solid units, man. None of these are like bad or whatever. So, all right. Moving on, let's talk about some units that we could maybe move up on the flip side, right? Which would be a bit happier topic to talk about. I really don't like moving units down, man. It's so sad. But moving units up, I like that. Anyways, so all right, there's a few units we could probably move first, which is maybe these two. Rain teams just keep on getting better. And May is just a really good fit for a lot of those, right? She's just you know, she could always double as the tank on the team as well, right? Obviously she could output damage herself, although her damage, it's not bad, but it's also not like crazy good either. But you know, a lot of units on this tier don't really have great. It's like the only people who actually have good damage on this tier is like SS Erica, SC Rosa, and like maybe Bianca, right? So I mean, it's hybrids, right? There's different concerns with these units. So yeah, I mean, it's just rain teams just keep on getting better. We got the new addition of Kris and Vaporeon, right? And surprise, Kris and Vaporeon also works very well with May, all right? So yeah, she's just in a really good spot with all the different good water. I mean, obviously the team with Kyogre is always going to be very good. Dojo Gloria, obviously incredibly powerful unit that she could also run with, right? Even some of the more recent maybe Lodge units are pretty nice as well. I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot, man. Really good units that she just works well with. And then the other one is probably Serena, which is really crazy considering this unit came out like so long ago and she's still in such a great spot, right? I mean, obviously she's in terms of gauntlet stages that can be sleep chain, she's the GOAT at that, right? She's very good at that. I'm not sure she's like the best sleep unit now, but I mean, she's still up there, right? She's very good sleep unit, and people sometimes forget she's an incredibly powerful damage dealer as well as an incredibly powerful sync nuker, which is like, yeah, I mean, it's just you know, they do kind of set themselves apart from the rest of this crowd, right? And yeah, I mean, like if you look at like and these are some really nice units in this tier as well, right? I mean, like stuff like literally there's like 3 zone setters. There's 3 zone setters here, right? Although all 3 zone setters over here, to be fair, in this year do have major flaws. Although most of them is not their own fault, it's more of like the units that they support, right, are just not as compatible with them, like SC Ingo, right? SC Wally just have some good matches. Courtney has 1 or 2 good matches, but Courtney also has the issue of like most of even her good matches with her do have like speed issues, right? And they all have personal damage output issues as well a bit. Again, not the end of the roll. I mean, Annie Skyla, you know, also has personal damage issues, right? But they also just, you know, they just have a lot of flaws, unfortunately, with a lot of the teams and units that they can run and support. But yeah, I mean, the others, can anyone else really move up? Not really. He's a bit too slow. Also, team comps are a bit limited. She's really versatile, right? Very good in Gauntlet. Not that great elsewhere. He's too one-dimensional. Same with her, I guess. Bead ceiling is a bit low though. She needs too much help. Yeah, I mean, they're all good. They're all still good units. I mean, that's why they're in, you know, one of the higher tiers.
But yeah, in terms of units, I could maybe move up from that tier. Probably those two. As for some other ones, we can maybe move. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. As you can tell, we did make a new tier because we probably need one. There is a bit of a parity now with the amount of like just units that are just a step above some of the other ones in the same tier, in the highest tier, that we probably do want to make another tier above them, and that's why I have the new tier in all caps. And units I could go up there, obviously SS Steven, right? Obviously SS Lyra, and Thunderbolt Red, right? And then these two, right? I feel like these units are a step above the rest over here, right? I mean, all four of these are still good. I mean, they're all, terrain zone setters that could all do really good damage on their own, have good nukes, have really, really good other, ways of supporting the team. I mean, she has the gauges things with Miss Ball, the debuffs, the special attack buffs. She has the debuffs. He could obviously sleep, debuff, all that stuff. She debuffs, flinches, all that, which is all great, but maybe a step below something like SS Lyra or like, Steven Thunderbolt Red or these guys. So no, they're still fine. Still fine. It's just maybe there's a bit of a a little bit of parity here. But by moving those up one, we do make a bit of room in that next year to move a few more up, which in this case could be Anni N and Anni Raihan. In comparison to some of the other units in the same tier, these two just have more versatility in terms of what teams they can run on, right? I mean, they both do have the same, I guess, big downside, which is their DPS is both not very good. But they do make up for it with both relatively decent nukes and all the other utility they bring, right? I mean, he has the debuffs, the speed, or gauge stuff, right? I mean, he has the piercing blows things if you want for Gauntlet, and then he has, physical special move up next, super effective up next, there's the flinches, different weathers, there's the max moves, right? Just does a lot, these units. So yeah, well, that's probably the changes for now. All right, let's get into the new and improved units over here, which there are plenty for hybrids right now. First up, I guess we could from the bottom maybe Clay. Yeah, Clay is a much better DPS unit now. You could give you some solid damage there, but he just doesn't do much more than that. Like, all he got was damage, which is fine, but yeah, I don't know. He's all right. It just doesn't really move the needle for him as much. I feel, unfortunately. Next up, I guess let's just get the big bunch out of the way over here, which is the Eeveelutions, which you could probably have them in the same tier, right? Yeah, you could definitely at least have them over. Honestly, if they had an EX, I could even move some of them up one more. They are really good. They're just really, really freaking good, man. Incredible units, all three of them. Again, if I wanted to, maybe I could move Vaporeon up one. I don't know, it just looks better when they're all same tier. But I definitely do think Vaporeon is definitely a bit better than the rest of the two, and I definitely think Jolteon is better than Flareon, right? So definitely like a Vaporeon, Jolteon, then Flareon, and not a knock at Flareon, just that the stages that Flareon could be effective in is just not as much as the other two, right? Although Flareon does have really, really, nice things as well, like the special defense buff that you could get from her grid, or his grid, sorry. And yeah, as for the other two, I don't know, man. They're just really good. All units that could set infinite weather terrain, right?
They all have solid DPS, really, really, good nukes if you want. They all have good debuffs, team buffs, right? Whether it's status for Flareon and Jolteon, or really good, special defense debuffs for Vaporeon. They're all just really good units, man. All of them, they just do so many different things on top of also giving you good damage, right? Like, yeah. They're fantastic gauntlet units. All really, really, really good gauntlet units. And yeah, again, if they had an EX, I could definitely see moving them like even higher, right? But like even without EX, they're still good enough, honestly. I don't know. I kind of want to move them. Let's see. These guys versus... they're fine here. They definitely do have, flaws as well. They're not perfect units, right? Having, since generally when they sink, they won't have their weather or terrain up. So that is definitely one flaw, right? So if you do want to, like, maximize their sync nuke damage, you would also have to bring an extra weather / terrain setter. But like that's really only the one flaw. I guess you could say, oh, they can't max out their own offensive stats, which I mean, true, but like most hybrid units can't. That's generally a striker thing. I mean, there are some that can, right? But like, it's more of a striker thing than hybrids. Most hybrids can't, right? So it's not like even that much of a knock against them. But yeah, all three of them are incredibly powerful units. Really wish the units are so good. I just really wish the entire situation could have been better, right? The entire situation could be so much better around these units, because these are some really powerful units, man. They could have just oh well. Moving on to, I guess, another upgrade over here, Yveltal and Lysander. Very, 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 very good upgrade, right? We could definitely put him up here as well. The extra damage or the extra tanking, you got both options available to you. And yeah, he's just another monster in Gauntlet, right? Another Gauntlet monster, especially against the likes of Tapu Bulu, right? I mean, just even outside of the upgrades, right? The initial kit, the heals, the flinches, right? Just this is a grade A Gauntlet unit, that's for sure. In terms of flaws, yeah, he still has his flaws, I guess. His DPS maybe not the best, but maybe Sync Nuke could have been, but I mean, it's still good enough for a striker. I don't know. He's good. I still don't like the 5/5/5/5 grid idea, but I can admit when some of them do have good buffs, which is true for Lysander, I guess. Next up, I guess we could talk a bit about Colress. Colress is, he's okay. He's okay, I guess. We could maybe put him here. Colress does a lot of really good things. I personally like this unit a lot. Even though maybe the committee, the other, committee that makes up the rankings, maybe, I don't know. I feel like I'm a bit higher than him than most people, but he definitely does have his flaws. Obviously, he just does like a lot of, like, honestly, it would have been much better. Again, it just also it comes back to a categorization issue, right? I mean, if he was in like utility, I feel like he could probably be more valuable. Like I'd see him like at least over here if he was in utility, right? But he's not a full utility unit. Does he have damage? Yes, he does. He does have damage. He's I think what, the third strongest steel type nuker, I want to say, right? Or something like that. At least top 3, top 4 likes of that, right? And he's just got a lot of really good stuff here. Like, Thunder Wave, guaranteed paralysis, Screech, right? I wouldn't really rely on the accuracy debuffing of Mirror Chop that much, nor is it super useful. Yeah, move gauge acceleration, some defense buffs. I mean, his defenses aren't terrible. They're not great.
for like dedicated tank, but I mean, you know, with the extra buffs here, that could help him a bit. And yeah, he just has that really, you know, nice steel nuke. I guess, which also crit buffs, right? Crit buffs over here. Crit buffs over here. He's just, yeah, he's just, I don't know. He does a lot of utility stuff. Just doesn't, offensively doesn't provide your team with too much. Which could make some teams, you know, maybe not do enough, right? I don't know. I like the unit. I think it's fine. But when I also look at it, like, would I have him over, like, Volkner or Hop or, like, Mass Royale? Yeah, no, those units are definitely better, though. But, I don't know, I feel like he's better than most units here. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, these guys are all pretty good. You know what? I think this is fair placement. This is fair. This is fair. This is a pretty good tier for him. Right? Yeah, like, something like Duroc. I'd say he's probably better than like, Duroc, but he's pretty similar to Duroc, at least. Maybe, to an extent, Sydney as well, although Sydney is more, you know, self-reliant, obviously, and not as utility focused as Colress. Maybe I'd take him over Sing Su Leaf? I don't know. If you run a like fully dedicated team around Sing Su Leaf, though, she could be really powerful offensively, but you also don't want to do that? Maybe we should move Leaf down? Huh? I don't know. I feel like he's fine here. He's fine here. Okay, sure, whatever. We'll just put him here. Again, really nice utility unit, right? That has a decently powerful nuke. Next, I guess we'll get him out of the way, right? I mean, you gotta do him eventually. You gotta talk about him eventually. SSN, very controversial unit. I feel like I'm much higher on SSN than like a lot of the other you know, a lot of the other guide writers and folks in the community, right? I mean, doesn't mean I don't recognize his flaws. He's definitely, I mean, just watch the, you know, the video, the gauntlet run, you know, the last gauntlet run I ran, and definitely has his flaws, like, you know, taking 2 turns to paralyze, to get his guaranteed paralyze off, which, yeah, kind of sucks against Renee's. But on the other hand, he carried, like, Hala, right, through a stage, which Hala might be the, like, worst gauge unit in the game. Like, this guy's, like, actually a net negative. Okay, maybe not actually, but, like, he's close to a net negative on gauges as you could be, right, for a unit. And I think that's very valuable. I just think that's very valuable, right? I mean, he's just very, he's a free gauge unit, man. Right? Noble Roar, B Noble Roar, even though, yeah, I know the argument, he probably shouldn't use B Noble Roar, it hurts the overall damage flow of the team, which is true, but also gives you a free move, which in Gauntlet, personally, my 2 biggest things for Gauntlet, gauges and tanking, and he could sort of tank if you do the 5 out of 5 stuff. I don't think it's really worth it. Don't. You could run a better tank than this guy, but like he's just really good for gauges, right? He's really good for gauges, which I keep on wanting to think counts for something. I keep wanting to think it counts for something, right? I mean, it does. It should count for something, right? But yeah, again, the flaws, downsides are also real, unfortunately, and as much as I want to, I can't really ignore that, right? The pretty piss poor damage, right? For a unit of this caliber is pretty embarrassing, and rotations can be really bad. Yeah, and if you really want to utilize them effectively, the amount of investment you have to put, you know, into his team is also pretty high. And even at his best, he again just doesn't do that well. Overall as a unit. So Yeah, the final verdict was to have him over here. Which I can concede this. Sure. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's like 1 or 2 units I'd take him over in you know, in the tier above. Like, again, not to pick on SS Leaf, but maybe I don't know. I think I'd take SSN over SS Leaf at least. But in terms of the other units, like utility wise, you know, these guys or most of these guys do bring a lot more. I mean, if you want to talk about gauges, I mean, there's, you know, Master Royale's still really good on gauges, right? And stuff. So yeah. Also, they're much more versatile, right? Well, at least some of them, you know. All this talk about, I really should move SS Leaf. Oh, you know, we'll have a discussion about SS Leaf next time, maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's fair to put him with, like, you know, like if Steven, at least, right? Colress, to an extent. Yeah, Lodge Rosa, right? Silver. Oh, you know what? Low key, this Lodge N is better, man. This Lodge N is really nice. Really, yeah. That I think that that's Lodge N is the last one I'm gonna get. I'm doing like Lodge Rosa right now. I finished it like everyone else, and then so after Lodge Rosa, I mean, there's probably gonna be like a new Lodge unit next one. I'm gonna get working on that Lodge N. That Lodge N is really this is a good unit, man. Really sneaky good unit. Maybe over Sydney, but Sydney's also really good for Gauntlet, man. Sydney is a monster for Gauntlet too, low key. Whatever. Well, I'll concede it, and we'll move on. All right, moving on to units that aren't as controversial. Singsuit Hilbert. Singsuit Hilbert is good. This guy's very good, man. I might have overreacted when I first saw him. When I first did the showcase video, but no, he's really nice, man. I'd say he easily could be in this tier. Just so many great things, right? Obviously the rebuffs, the different types he can cover, even though some of the types maybe aren't, you know, as useful to cover, but still, right? He covers them at least, right? And he just has a lot of extra, like people sometimes forget, but he has a lot of extra utility as well in his kit. For example, static brush over here, right? Like this, very good for the Tornadus Gauntlet that's up right now, right? Also, one other thing, I don't know, do we have this in the disclaimer or not? Events like the Gauntlet or like Extreme Battles sometimes might skew people's perception of units, because there's recency bias, right? I mean, whatever thing that's up right now people might, you know, skew it, and because again, the Gauntlet's up right now, and some people might think, oh damn, this Magneton's really good against Tornadus. You should go up, which was what I thought when I first saw it. But then you know, again, you do have to sort of suppress the recency bias and you know, think about it a bit more clearly in terms of the overall usage across all different stages, right? But no, this guy's good, man. This guy really good. Also Metal Sound debuff, special defense if you need that, right? I guess if you want to talk about flaws, his damage isn't great, right? It's good, not great. The upside is he does give himself the rebuffs, but in stages like Gauntlet where they get rid of the rebuffs, obviously then you're back, you know, you're back to earth. Don't do as much. Although, damn, he still should be good enough to clear stages, right? So there's a bit of that issue. There's also a bit of an issue, like I'd say, like outside of Ice type, right? In most case scenarios, in terms of his rebuffs, you kind of don't really want to run him on those teams, right? It's a bit hard to find positions for him. Again, for example, on like a Sun team,
or rain teams, right? I mean, like, that's just, I guess, the general issue. Same issue with Gordy as well, right? Like, are you gonna run fire type rebuff Gordy on a team, on a fire type team, or are you gonna run Shiny Hoe plus another incredibly powerful fire damage healer, which there are plenty of, right? So he does have a bit of that issue, but otherwise, he's a good unit, man. He's a really, really good unit. he might be not, you know, he might not be in a lot of best teams, right? The most optimal teams, whatever you want those mean. But he's just he's just a unit that you could just build something around him and he could, like, you know, carry you, right? Through a lot of different things, right? So he's good. He's really, really good. Moving on, let's have the last one, I think. Yeah, Ghetsis. Ghetsis doesn't really change, honestly. Did he get better? Yes, he definitely got better, right? I mean, we talk about his grid being maybe not the most exciting grid, but he got some good stuff. I mean, the ramp up. As much as I would like to argue a lot of this stuff should have been in his original kit, and his training move should have been not this bad, right, or whatever. But do they help him in the end? Yeah, they do. Do they make him take a next step in terms of a unit as a whole into being something much, much better than he was before? No, absolutely not. No, right? He's just still yeah, all right. Still a gauge liability, although not as much of a gauge liability. Slightly less of a gauge liability. And still doesn't do much damage. Damn. I'm so surprised they didn't give him any, like, damage multipliers. Not that that's not the number one thing I want him. The number one thing I want him was, like, double drops on his glaciate or trip up or whatever, right? But like, for a unit that has just really piss poor damage, I'm really surprised they didn't give him multipliers. Like, that was, like, why? That's so weird. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, he's just back where he was, which I think was this tier, right? I mean, yeah, this tier is like Mass Royale or Champion Iris. It's fine, right? Makes sense, I guess. Moving on to sports, not too much number sports. We got one lodge unit and then one slight upgrade that, like, no one actually has, but exists. Look, even though like there's probably like 10 people total in the world that has him at 3 out of 5. We still have to rank him at 3 out of 5 because that's generally what we do here. We rank units at their best, right? I mean, that was in the disclaimer earlier, but let's talk about Lodge Elesa first. Lodge Elesa is it's a nice unit. It's not, you know, it's not anything game breaking, but you got crit buffs here, you got special defense buffs, you can debuff opponent's speed, which is good. Yeah, she can tank a bit, right? She got some, you know, endurance, healthy healing stuff, which is solid. Toughen up 9, right? That's also really good for, you know, her physical defense as well. Not great, but it's something. Natural remedy is always nice. First aid. You can stay in a bit with leech life, not too much, but at least she has, like, unlike some other leech life units, Alana, she could buff her crit at least herself. So there's that, and you could ignore this. This will never happen. Well, not never, but rare. She does have some downsides though. For support, she is pretty gauge heavy. Right, whether it's 3 gauge leash life or 2 gauge electro web on only 224 speed with no significant, you know, speed stuff. Well, not even significant. Like, literally, her only speed stuff in her grid is like move gauge refresh. Really, right? So, yeah, that is definitely a pretty big flaw in her kit overall, which is why she's probably not gonna land too high. But she could at least she could be at least here, right? You know, somewhere rank to something like a Lodge Cynthia, so she's all right. And Cheren over here, again, no one actually has them at like 3 out of 5 and like fully X, unless you're just like a massive Cheren fan, right? There's like, yeah, again, like 15 people
probably total that has him, but he did get some things. None of them are obviously worth spending a 5-star support candy on. I mean, we went over this ad nauseum, but he has some like defense buffs now. Brain Brawn is alright. Some special damage reduction. You could cure trap maybe over here, or flinch, could be nice. You could heal a bit over here. You have +1 crit buff. Although, do keep in mind, this is really expensive stuff over here. And like for some reason you got a bunch of sand. Like this is so what? Who's gonna run him as a sand support? On a roll on crunch, which only exists there because you're not really gonna use it. It's just really slow unit. Support 3-gauge move. So like it's only theoretically, yeah, you could have on a roll crunch, but you're again not really gonna use it, especially since you only have like move gauge fresh 2 on crunch. So yeah, some stuff. 30 defense, special defense. Yeah, so we could, yeah, you could probably be in this tier, which is coincidentally also the same tier Rosa and Ace Roller. That's not the reason why we put him here. It's just this overall kit just probably belongs here. Although do keep in mind this is like him at like 5 out of 5 even, like 3 out of 5 fully EX. So like your Cheren is, if it's at like 1 out of 5, your Cheren is probably still like down like here somewhere. Unfortunately. If you have an EX, like maybe here, I guess. But yeah, slightly unfortunate situation there. So please write feedback so we could get more copies of this guy and actually make him as usable as like Liza. Poor guy. I like Cheren too. He did not deserve this, man. He really should have gotten an alt during the so many other different characters could have gotten an alt during the Yveltal arc, man. Well, at least it's over now. Anything else here? Guess we can move Marlon up 1. Not that Marlon's good, just that these two are just so generationally bad. Like, these guys have no use, man. I was doing like I was prepping my 100 streak gauntlet run team, and like these two units straight up, there's like 30 Eggmons I would use throw them on a team before. Like these two are literally like the last units where, all right, let me put them on a team where the main unit could probably solo this stage, so I'm just gonna throw them in as like sacks or just extra, just move gate count down. So sure, we'll move Marlon up 1. He's definitely the least useful out of all these, but he's like, he at least has 1 use, okay, in comparison to, like, 2 uses in comparison to these two, which have 0.5 uses. All right, so anyway, that's for this one, I guess. Hope y'all enjoyed the casting in the comments down below. Like, enjoy the videos, my channel for some more Bowman's content. Become a channel member for cool emojis, or leave a super thanks if you want to support the channel. Shout out to the newest channel member, which actually went for the highest channel member tier, Dark Fun TV, which is slightly surprising because I don't think my channel is worth that much support, but thank you guys anyways, and have fun. I'll see you guys in the next one.